Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World, where we're here once again to talk about the biggest club in Wales, the greatest club in the world, some would say. And it's another day of no manager, no news, I guess. But look, I'd save going over like the same ground over and over again because we're all a bit frustrated by it. It all feels a bit laughable, and I it's the breakdown. Welcome to the breakdown. Sunday nights we break down in the season, tactical analysis, blah blah blah. 5 things we've learned, etc. But obviously, with no games and stuff at the moment, we can break down what we choose. So I'm happy to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So if you've got questions or particular subjects that you wish to discuss, then that's what we'll do. But like loosely in my head, next 40 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about some of the players which we might loan out and what sort of loans we think would be good for them, and maybe touch on one or two which we could potentially get in, which is very difficult to discuss because like you're kind of basing it on Bullet and what he might be looking to and his system and his tactics, but then also we might have a different manager. So it's all good. It's all good though. It's Sunday night. It's a lovely, lovely day, beautiful day. So why don't we just talk about the club that we all love and talk about it in any way, which way we see fit. I predict that this week we will get an announcement of the club for the manager. I think this week is the week. Um, a lot of managers come back from the holidays now ahead of the Euros and stuff like that. So they're kind of getting back to work this next week. So maybe, just maybe, we get some news. You'd like to think, like, to me at least, just, and this is purely based on my own opinion, and maybe I expect too much of my football club. I think they've got to announce it this week because if they go another week with no announcement and no manager tied down, you're really in trouble because you're going to be really, really, really far behind. Obviously, towards the end of this month, now a couple of weeks, you have all the contracts are up on our players, on players from other clubs for free transfers. Then you've got the Euros coming around real quick. Um, so then a lot of players who are in the squads, in the fringes, they won't want to discuss anything to do with their ongoing situations. So it's certainly an issue which needs addressing, and it needs addressing quickly. I would like to think, and maybe that's just like the small little optimist in me. Let's be honest, there's not a lot of optimism in me. I'm quite the pessimist, but I think this week should be the week. Like in terms of like what I've heard, which is by the by, I'm surprised it hasn't been announced already. But maybe there's reasons. Could be budget reasons. Could be backroom staff. Could be nailing down some contracts for signings. Could be a whole host of things. Could just be the manager, the owner, flexing a bit of authority over us and over the club. Who knows? Certainly an interesting one, but it's certainly very, very frustrating if you're a Cardiff City fan. Like you haven't got a manager. We officially do not have a manager at the moment, which is puzzling to say the least. Uh, Obviously, yesterday we dropped a new episode of the Terry Phillips History of Cardiff City, which was the promotion from '93 with away at Scunthorpe at Glanford Park. Good episode that was. A bit rougher than I normally put out, but variety of reasons. We were hoping to get a Flower Hour on tour episode going. The boys recorded a couple of episodes, but due to signal and stuff like that, there was no audio and things like that. So it is difficult. I think, yeah, so the Flower Hour is back anyway on Wednesday, Friday. We have a new episode of Terry Phillips coming this week, which is a good one again. We have myself and Pan Friday night fight nights, Friday night lights, whatever you want to call it. It was a really enjoyable episode on Friday. I really liked it because, like, generally speaking, we agree. But there's like little bits that me and Pan disagreed on, and there's a bit of pushback either way. And I enjoy that bit of a debate, and that's what it's about: is having those different opinions, having different fans on, having different people on, to have a bit of variety of opinions at the end of the day. It's not just about my opinion, it's about everyone, and I enjoy having a range of people. So really happy to have Pan on board. I thought he did a great job in the live show and on his video. I think he's got a Wales video coming out this week, which will be interesting, looking at the squad. As I say, we've got the Flower Hour. We'll have the breakdown later in the week and a few other things. I'm hoping to record a podcast on Wednesday with a former Cardiff City legend who's never appeared on any of my channels. So I'm excited about that. It's a new face. And I've also got one in mid-June with a former Wales international who's also never been on the channel. So very exciting couple of weeks for the child in me. Get to interview some heroes and all good content for you guys. So if you've got any questions, suggestions, whatever, just drop them in the comments on Twitter or on YouTube, and we'll kind of get to it. I did want to talk about the outs, particularly more so the loans than the general loan. We've talked a little bit about outs, permanents, but I wanted to talk about some players who I think might potentially go out on loan, and we still might see a version of them, which is like a first team version for Cardiff City in the future. So maybe not this year, but in a season or two, we might see a version of them. Or if that doesn't work out, maybe you get some money for them if they can find their feet in League One or elsewhere. So obviously, if you start with the keepers, I think Jack Anwick leaves, which really at the moment leaves Howworth and Turner. Turner is an interesting one because really he needs to play. He needs to play games to continue his growth as a player. Because I always think like being a backup keeper as a young goalkeeper it almost holds you back a little bit. Because I know goalkeepers reach their peak a little bit later on, a bit older, but I wonder how much just sitting on the bench, being back up to Howworth, never playing, is going to really help with his growth. So, but then equally training maybe with someone as experienced as Howworth, an international, and training with internationals, and maybe that does some good for him. I think when you look at it overall, maybe as a number two, as if he was the out-and-out number two, and we didn't sign another experienced keeper, so he's on the bench every week and he plays some cup games, that I can see the benefit of. If we're going to bring in another keeper, if Alnwick goes out, which I think we probably will, then I kind of expect Turner maybe to go on loan. Because when you're third choice keeper, you're not in the squad, you're just kind of in training, maybe play for the 21s. So that's an interesting one. I don't know. I think he probably stays. I think he's probably second or third choice. I don't think he'll go out on loan. But I do question whether he'd benefit more from playing games. Defensive-wise, obviously, you've got McGuinness, Gutas, Collins, NG. They're going to stay. Romeo, NG, I think, probably gets sold. Romeo, I think there's a chance he gets sold. And then you've got the youngsters. You've got Louis Giles, vastly talented fullback, only 17 years old. So the manager and the club then has a decision to make. I said the other day, I wouldn't be devastated to have two experienced fullbacks and two young fullbacks. So you have your experienced fullbacks in Collins, let's say NG for now, or let's say Dramer. So Collins and Dramer are your fullbacks. And then you have Conte as one backup and Louis Giles as the other backup. I don't think that's the worst idea in terms of saving a bit of money, but also in terms of their progression, because they're going to get minutes on the pitch. They're the first choice backup, if you like. However, out of the two in Giles and Conte, probably from an age point of view, I think it's most likely that Giles goes on loan than Conte, because I think Conte's done enough that he likely is in that now. He's in the first. I'd be very surprised if he's not part of the first team squad, because I thought he was that impressive, to be quite honest with you. So I think Louis Giles could benefit from a bit of a loan, but I've got to be honest, I would like to see him in the first team squad. I would like to see him be the backup left back. I don't think it'll happen, if that's the case, then I think it's vital that he goes out on loan. My preference would be, League One, League Two club where he can go play every week and get game time. That's really important. I didn't mention Rohan Luthara as a goalkeeper because I think he's already left the club, but I'm not 100% sure. I saw something saying he left. So yeah, I think Louis Giles could really benefit from that loan spell, because I don't think he's too far off, and I actually think he's very highly rated. So maybe he needs that bit of game time, Raheem Conte, as far as I'm concerned, should be the backup right back. He could probably do backup left back. If we look at the likes of Xavier Benjamin and Joel Bagan, I think Joel Bagan very likely will be sold. Xavier Benjamin's a bit of an interesting one because he played some of the EFL games and then really didn't get a look in, even when we had injuries. He didn't really. Well, he didn't. He didn't feature and come on. I don't know if he had. Was he on loan? I know he featured in some of the EFL games. The age he's at now, was he 20? Centre back. Clearly got a bit of talent. Can play right back. Can play centre back. Seems, at least on paper, to have been overtaken by the likes of Conte and Louis Giles, but has made a couple of appearances. He went out on loan to Dunfermline last year. Did he? See if I can get those stats. See if we can get those stats up to see if he played much. I haven't heard anything of him playing. Let's have a look. 23, 24. Xavier Benjamin. Right, so let's have a look. Made 4 appearances in the Championship, 1 in the Welsh Cup, 1 in the FA Cup, 1 in the EFL Cup. Yeah, can't seem to see anything about his. I can't seem to find his. They were Scottish Championship. So was on the bench from February to pretty much the end of the season, not in the squad. The first 4 games he was there, he started. A couple of losses, a draw, and then a win, and then he was on the bench or not in the squad for the rest of the season. So not a particularly beneficial loan period, in my opinion. He made not very many appearances, probably not ideal. So he's one, depending on how long he's got left on his contract, maybe you go back and you try and get him a loan. I wonder about these lower league Scottish clubs, like the facilities, and I understand it might toughen them up a little bit and it might get them used to playing men's football and stuff like that. But the standard, man, I really think they'd benefit more from playing in League One. But then it's like, if you can't get in the side, and not just with him, but with any of them, if they can't get in the side in a Scottish league or an Irish league, are you going to get in a League One side? So maybe you need to look at League Two. Maybe they cash in, or we cash in on Xavier Benjamin and Joe Bagan. I still think with Benjamin there might be something there, so I'd be tempted to kind of have a look. I do want to focus on loans, but there's certain players who I would sell out. Like Romeo, I would sell now. I think the juice is not worth the squeeze for a variety of reasons. I was speaking to someone about Ollie Denham, Jeff, the other day, who lives up that way. He's been on loan at Sligo Rovers. Obviously, a very versatile guy. He can play centre back. He predominantly played at centre back. He gave me some links to look at, and I'm gonna do a proper loan watch video. But I'm talking more today about what we do with them next year. So for me, from what I've heard and what I can see with Oliver Denham, I I think he's got to go out on loan again. I don't think you're going to get any worthwhile money for him. 22, can play a couple of positions again. Looks like centre back is his position. At least when he's gone out to the Irish League, he is playing. He looks like he's playing week in, week out. Picked up a couple of yellow cards, but at least he's playing the game, and that's what it's about, these loan games. It is most importantly about getting them game time, getting them used to this first team football. And, standard aside, like, those games will be very tough. They'll be very physical, difficult games. So, yeah, I think Oliver Denham is another one who goes on loan. Fagan Walcott is an interesting one. He's come up a couple of times recently. What's Reece saying about Fagan Walcott? So it looks like Fagan Walcott took his place. So Malachi Fagan Walcott again, 22 years old. Big boy. Plays centre back. Can also play. Looks like he can play in a midfield or a back three as well. So look at his stats. See how many game times he got. I think. So look, Reece is saying there, like, he caught one of their games and they looked out of their depth, which is unfortunate. But I think you've got to give them time, because I think it's a massive jump up. Even the Irish League from the 23s or the Scottish League from the 23s, I think there's a big difference between the 23s and men's football, whatever the standard. The physicality of it, the facilities in some cases as well. Like, you've got to think, like, Cardiff City have got really, really top quality facilities for their academy players from the young age all the way up. And then when they go out to these Irish League teams, Scottish League teams, Belgian second tier, the facilities are going to be way, way different. So just looking at Fagan Walcott, let's have a look at his Scottish Championship stats. Didn't do much in his Scottish loan. Can't get the Irish stats up, which is a bit frustrating. Let's move along into the midfield. So Joel Colwell, I think is, with Joel, there's kind of two things which really strike me at the moment. I think it's very important that we get Joel Colwell playing men's football week in, week out. And I think he needs to probably bulk up a little bit. I could see the logic to keeping him around depending on the ins and outs around it. So our midfield options at the end of the season were Wintle, Rawls, Ramsey, Turnbull, talking central midfield, Turnbull, Sawyers, Siopis, Ruben Colwell, Joel Colwell. So if you think Romain Sawyers is going, I think, and then if you take Ramsey and Joel out, Ramsey and Ruben out of it because they play a bit more advanced, you're looking at Wintle, Rawls, Siopis, Turnbull as the four, and then Joel Colwell. I think we bring in at least one central midfielder to play in that role alongside Siopis. So personally, I would probably sell. Wintle would be the one who I would sell, which would leave you with Rawls, Turnbull, Siopis, new signing, and then Joel Colwell as the fifth. But in my opinion, the fifth choice, particularly as a young player, he's just not going to get that many games. And I think Joel Colwell would benefit so much from being like in League One and just playing week in, week out. I think he'd get so much out of it. And obviously a super talented footballer, obviously very, very highly rated footballer, young footballer. Like, if he could go and get 20, 30 games, 40 games at League One or League Two, I think you see a completely different version of him next summer. So for me, as much as like the optimist in me to like not keep him, because then we can, he's a quality player. Maybe he forces his way in. I think he looks like a kid who needs to play to fulfill his potential, and we have to give him a pathway. So the managers or the people at the club, They need to go, right, you go to League One or you go to this place, play week in, week out, and so obviously make sure it's the right club that's going to pick them and play them, and then bring him back next summer, like you're doing with Isaac Davis. Bring him back next summer. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he's bulked out a little bit, but he's played men's football week in, week out, and you can genuinely assess then if he's good. That is a great shout, Reese. Joel Colwell to Newport would be a fantastic move for all considering. I think he could do a real good job at Newport, and I think he would benefit from it. It's not too far from home, but also it's a new surroundings, new club, a level where he can play week in, week out. Makes a lot of sense. Good shout that is, mate. And then you've got a Tete up front. Now, a Tete to me is vital that Cardiff City Football Club get it right this summer with him, because I'm not ready to quite give up on him. I would like to see them build a relationship with a League One club and say, right, we think there's something there. He's technically very, very good. Needs to be a bit stronger mentally, physically. Let's get him playing week in, week out. Because I think if you can get him playing at that level, he'll score goals. And I think as soon as he starts going on a bit of a streak, you'll find he's fitter. He's more available. I just think he's kind of one of them, very much a confidence player. And I'm not ready to write him off just yet, Tete. I think there's something there. So let's get him on loan, get him playing, get him really playing at a level that's he's capable of scoring a lot of goals at now. I know Reese is not a fan, and I know some people are not a fan, and I understand it. And I also, if Cardiff decide that we've seen enough, we're going to try and get some money for him. You don't think you can dispute that. I don't think you can argue it. He's 22. He's never really, if you look at his senior career, he'd done a year at Notts County, made 4 appearances, didn't score a goal. Never made an appearance for Tottenham. Went on loan to Northampton, 18 appearances, 3 goals. Cheltenham Town, 13 appearances, 3 goals. And Cheltenham Town, with the greatest of respect, is not a great. He was a lot younger then, or a couple of years younger. And then Cardiff, he's made 56 appearances, scored 6 goals. And I would say 3 or 4 of those came in a little burst last year. I'm loaning Tete out. I wouldn't sell him yet. I would loan him. League One, let's see what you got. Play week in, week out, and go from there. I want to talk a bit about some of the players around the first team. So Ollie Tanner, I want him to be one of the options. We're going to have 4 wing options. I think he should be one of those options. He can play left or right. He can also fill in at fullback. I think that's a good choice. And I think Ashford's going to be a choice for a winger, and then you bring in 2 experienced wingers. For some fans, that will be a gamble to have. What I've said tonight is have two youngsters as your backup fullbacks and 2 youngsters be the backup wingers. But here's why I don't think it's a risk. Number one, that's what I would like Cardiff City's DNA to be, is to build around these talented youngsters. Because we've got a few coming through who have clearly got talent. Number 2, Ruben can play out wide if needs be, if it got a bit too much for an Ashford, or if Tanner's hasn't quite. I don't think Tanner's fulfilled what the glimpses that we've seen. A bit similar to a Tete, but I think he's done much more than a Tete, generally speaking. He also looks like a player who's got that bit of magic. You need those players, but you've got to give them a bit of freedom as well. So if Tanner and Ashford are your wing options, you can put Colwell in there as well if needs be, if Ramsey's there. And then when we sign, we need to sign 2 strikers. And in my opinion, one of them needs to be an out-and-out number 9. who only plays through the middle, is going to be playing through the middle all the time. But then you've also probably going to sign someone like a Carlin Grant or similar, or Josh Winder, someone like that, who can play through the middle but can also play wide. So I think that gives you a bit of flexibility to utilise younger players in the wide areas. And then let's talk about some of the guys who are on. I know we touched on some of them, but let's talk about some of the others. Isaac Davis being the obvious one, and probably the standout in terms of statistically and performance-wise. I think in some ways that might be because all these players out on loan, I would say most people will say they've seen the most of Isaac Davis. Now, is that because we see the clips and the games we're able to watch them? Or is that because they get shared more? Or is that because he generally seems to have played a lot more minutes? It's difficult to say. What I have seen of him, he looks like he's matured a little bit, matured a bit physically as well. He looks a bit beefier, a bit stronger. I still think his best position is through the middle. I think him being an option for the number 9 position wouldn't be the worst thing. And like I said, I want these young players to be part of the DNA of Cardiff City. So if I'm using this name as an example. I am not saying we're going to sign him. I'm not even saying I want to sign him. I'm just using it as an example for what I'm saying. Say we sign Kiefer Moore, right? Kiefer Moore is our number 9. Having Isaac Davis as your backup number 9 then in that position is a great idea. Kiefer Moore is not going to play 90 minutes for 42 plus games a season. So just like Colwell with Ramsey, Isaac Davis is going to get plenty of game time. Then you have your more experienced right winger and Kean Ashford, your more experienced left winger, Ollie Tanner, and you've got a couple of players who can kind of fill in. But Isaac Davis has to earn that opportunity to be the backup centre forward for Cardiff City. And you've also got Ashford can play through the middle as well. So for me, for Isaac, I want to see him like hit the ground running in training, in pre-season, and I would like to see, because let's face it, we'll probably still be looking for a number 9 come the last day of the transfer window. So in pre-season, when we play like the first team, when you've got, it's particularly the first team midfield. So when we play like Siopis and Rawls, or Siopis and Turnbull and Colwell or Ramsey, I want to see Isaac as the number 9 with those players. I want to see him get the opportunity to play with the players who are going to start in the Championship. And let's see what he's got, because he's got a good work rate. I don't think he's got electric pace, but I think he's quite intelligent in his movements in between the lines, between like in the channels between the fullback and the centre back, getting in behind. I think he's quite clever at that. I know he tends to play like the wide of a 3 behind, like they do, but I think he's got I think the difference between him now from before his loan period, particularly, I think he's much more physically ready to be an out-and-out number 9. I don't think he was physically, a bit like Ashford now. I don't think Ashford is physically ready to play through the middle for Cardiff City at the moment. He might be one day. He might end up being a wide player, but at the moment, Ashford's not physically probably ready to play through the middle. Certainly got the ability. So with Isaac Davis, I think he's matured a bit physically. Be interesting. Interesting to see how he goes. Just looking at his stats for the season. How many goals did he? I think he got 13 goals, didn't he, in the end? It's just not a bad return for a youngster. You know, going away from home. It's difficult. It is difficult to judge the general standard of it. 12 goals he scored. 12 goals in 28 appearances. So what's that? Give or take a goal every other game. Give or take. I know it's not a goal every other game, but I think those stats are good enough that I want to have a look at him and I want to see if he's up to it. Not saying he is, not saying he's not. And then the other thing which complicates the Isaac Davis thing is he like, if someone comes in for him and like Monaco both been linked, if they come in and they offer a few million, is he a player who you're like, nah, we're keeping him because he's going to make it this year? Do you know what I mean? Like, is he like a diamond where you're like, no, we ain't selling him until we absolutely have to? Or is he someone that you can go, yes, he'd be useful, but if you're giving us 3-4 million, we'll have that. He's 22. He's going to want to play. I wonder whether he's one that the club might cash in, because we have to find money. We have to get some money to spend. We have to be realistic. Ojo, obviously on loan at the same club as Isaac, barely played. Poor when he did. I believe he's out of contract at the end of June. No chance of him staying, I don't think. Didn't step up anywhere near the same way as what Isaac Davis did on his loan period. And then you've got like Rituro Tsunda. He's an interesting one, isn't he? Because I think physically, I'm really interested in him. Like, he looks a bit of a player. He's had a hip operation, so he's going to miss part of the preseason, at least. But he can play all across the back four. Again, like, it's impossible to judge. Is he good enough to be an option at the back? Is he good enough to be, if you're saying like you've got Kutas, McGuinness, you'd like to think another centre back, and then him, Tsunoda. Is he good enough to be the fourth option? He's 24 years old. He's not a baby. I think potentially played 12 games. He's played 52 games last year. Or is that? No, that might not be for this year. Yeah, that's for this year. So he played a lot of football, and looks like, like he's got this injury now. He's going to be out for a while. Definitely want to have a look at him, because I think, why wouldn't you? You're right. Isaac Davis won Player of the Year for his loan club. You've got to look at him. I'll put it to you guys. If someone offers 4 million for Isaac Davis, would you take it? Obviously, there's another side to it. Because from his point of view, if Anderlecht or if Monaco come in, he's got a decision to make, hasn't he? Big clubs, potentially, maybe play Champions League football, so he may want to take it. But as Cardiff City Football Club, we're knowing that we need to raise funds. Would you sell him for that sort of 3 or 4 million mark? I'm interested. Is he like a diamond in the rough? We just should not sell him under any circumstances. It's an interesting one. Tsunoda, Isaac Davis, personally, I want to have a real good look at them before I made a big decision to sell. Maybe Tsunoda could go on loan to a club in this country, like a League One or something like that, just to see how he fares. I haven't seen a lot of him, so I find that one difficult to judge. Although I have heard that he's been pretty good, so be interesting. There's a couple of interesting ones released by Newcastle this week. Jeff Hendrick, Matt Ritchie. Joe Bagan, I think he goes now. I'm not even sure if he's out of contract this year. Might be. No, he signed a new contract, didn't he, last summer? I think he goes, Joe Bagan. I think he's 22. Probably needs to play football now and doesn't look like he's going to play it at Cardiff. I think that Conte's probably snuck in front of him, maybe even Louis Giles, because the manager does seem to like Giles. So Bagan's going to go, I think makes a lot of sense to me. That because I think he's probably not quite up to the standard, but I think he can go and have a good League One career. No news on the manager, mate. I did say at the start of the season, at the start of the show, sorry, that I think we'll get someone this week. Not based on any information or anything like that. I just think purely from maybe it's my optimism, because I'm such an optimistic guy when it comes to Cardiff. They have got to do it this week. They've got to announce it this week, or we are going to be right up shit creek. And even just from like me and Pan talked about on Friday, right? Just purely from a business point of view, not having a manager. Like, look at the season ticket. There's so many season tickets available in the Canton end and around that ground, because there's a lot of people who are on the fence about Bullet, but I think they would have bought. But the lack of decision, which in turn means a lack of transfer rumours and excitement and signings about the new season, is a big issue. And from a business point of view, the longer they let this drag out, the worse it's getting. I really believe that. I just cannot understand why they're allowing it to drag out like this. Both sides. Holton says Colwell as a false nine might be a shout. Yeah, I said that last season, but I said, especially at the end of the season when we had some injuries, I said Colwell as a false nine with Ashford in the 10 could work really well, because Colwell would naturally drop into the holes and Ashford would naturally run beyond. And then if you've got the right players in the wide areas and around them, I think it could work really well. Because Colwell's like not your stereotypical number 10. I think he had a really good season, and I think if we get the right players around him, I think he'll crack. I'm hoping he'll kick on again. Pretty sure his contract. I thought Bullett's contract ran out a couple of days ago, but I might be wrong on that. Paul, I don't know, mate, with that side of things. I'm trying to think if I've missed any young players out. So Gavin says, do you think we should look at Kiefer Moore for a third time or finally let it go? That's the question, isn't it, mate? I think part of me thinks we should go back for him. But that part of me is the part which heard that he contacted Cardiff about coming here last summer, and we kind of dillied and dallied and cocked it up. But it's almost like, do you hold it against him that he went to Ipswich instead of waiting for us? But I mean, he could, if he had carried on, he could still be waiting for us, and he could have spent the second half of the season stuck on the bench at Bournemouth. So if you look at it from his point of view, maybe he felt like he had to make a decision because we were taking too long. I would say if it was a genuine chance to sign him, then I would sign him, because a proven championship striker is hard to find and get on a decent, like, affordable wage, loan, whatever, signing. It is difficult, and I think his link-up play is very good. He scores goals in the championship. He's a good age. He's relatively good at staying fit. Like, I would probably take him, but I wouldn't spend the whole summer trying to get him. I would kind of go to him and say, this is the project. This is what we want to do. This is where we see you playing. Fancy it? And kind of say to him, it's like a yes or a no. If you say no, fine. Wish you well. Move on to other targets. So in answer to your question, I would go back in for him, but it would be a very short conversation of, this is where we see you playing. Are you interested? Yes or no? Yes, great. Come on then. No. To be honest with you, mate, I've been saying now for like the last couple of weeks, and this is why the managerial thing's really infuriating me. I really wanted Cardiff to hit the ground running now. I wanted us to be like really rolling, because there's some cracking free signings available at the end of this month. But their agents are already lining up their contracts and their deals. so that as soon as their contracts run out at the end of June, 30th of June, bang, they go into new clubs. All the best ones will go to new clubs. They've got it sorted. And because we've got no football structure, we've got no football director, technical director or director of football. I mean, now we've got no manager, and we've got a board which is full of people who are businessmen, not football men. There's no one even really working on those deals. The best we can kind of hope for is that they've got a couple of players earmarked from last season through Bullet, and if he is coming back, that they're kind of trying to get the ball rolling with them, and the scouts are doing their thing. But like, it's a problem because particularly on the free transfer front, the best ones will go quick, and we're going to fall behind. We have to get this managerial situation sorted, and we have to get it sorted this week. I think it's imperative we do that. Reese says, you'd like to think after a year with Bullet, the scouting, the management teams will have identified better options for up top than a 30-odd-year-old striker who keeps saying no to us. He didn't keep saying no to us. He had a decision to make. Did he wait? Like, if he waited for us, mate, would we still be like, will we, won't we, haggling over whatever? I don't blame him for going to Ipswich. Like, he could have spent the second half of the season sat on the bench. However, you can't put it all on Cardiff City. Like, if he wanted to come, then he should have put a bit of pressure on to make it happen his end. And I mean, you never know what went on, but like I said, I wouldn't spend all season. I would ask the question. Simple as that. But I agree. Strikers are weird, isn't it? Championship strikers, particularly, I think if you can get a proven championship striker in, I think it's massive. I really think it's massive to the overall team. Like, we did a whole season last year without a striker. And going back to Holton's question about Colwell as a false nine, I do think it could work with certain players in that system. But I think it would be very dangerous to go in that as your main system. So I would stick with the system we've got and a striker who we sign, whether that's Moore or whoever. But having that false nine system in your back pocket is not the worst thing. Having a 3-5-2 in your back pocket, good idea. With like O'Dowda as a left wing back, and Conte as the right wing back or whatever, or Tanner, and having different systems that you can go, right, we're losing this 1-0, there's 20 minutes to go. We're switching to 3-5-2, let's go. And the players can just automatically go to it. They've worked it, they've played it before, and they can just play. Or we're 1-0 up with 20 minutes to go. Right, we're going to switch to a false nine, in possession, fluid, out of possession, everyone compact behind the ball, make it very difficult to play through. I think that's a great idea, and I think any manager worth their salt has a couple of systems in place these days. Reece says he down tools to force a move away and then turned us down for Ipswich. When asked earlier in the season why he chose them, he said they offered more money, bonus related. Yeah, I understand why people don't want him to go, or don't want us to go back into him. And like I said, I wouldn't drag it out whatsoever. I would literally just say, do you want to come? Yeah, right, let's get it done. And if it seems like he's waiting for other options, or he's playing silly buggers or dragging it out whatsoever, yeah. I also think that you'll be able to find slightly younger, hungrier strikers. I mean, one thing I would like to see Bullet and the club do this season, I would like to focus on the young players, and I would like to focus on players who are on board with Bullet, on board with the club, buying into everything. It's one of the reasons I said they should get rid of Romeo and Robinson. For whatever reason, hasn't kind of worked for them over the last, particularly under Bullet. You can't have players who are not pulling in that direction, and you've got to have a really close dressing room, really together. And one player, one not bad apple, but one negative player can just disrupt everything. So I think it's really important. I want to see a focus on young players. I want to see a focus on players who are fully on board. And that's one of the reasons why I want to be really selective over who we bring in on loan this year. So I thought Carlin Grant really bought into the football club, really bought into the manager, regardless of, maybe he missed some chances and stuff like that. Never stopped working for the club, never stopped working for the badge. And I, for one, would be quite happy to see him back here because of his attitude towards it. I would like us to sign an established striker. For me personally, that ideally would be someone who's about between 26 and 28, who's hungry, has scored goals, and is going to get a few, and then bring in like a loan, maybe like a Lewis Kumas or someone like that, young, hungry to play, really looking to make a name for themselves, and bring in. There's a couple of young Premier League players who I'd be interested in bringing in on loan. But again, it has to be the right type of player, because we've got some good young players ourselves. And if you're going to bring in, like just as an example very quickly, there's a young left back at United who's 17, 18 in the summer, who's supposed to be fucking exceptional. He's like a mini Luke Shaw, but fit. But like, if we were to bring him in on loan, that disrupts Louis Giles and potentially Conte's progress, because you're going to play the loan player. So I suppose you could move Louis Giles on loan then, but I'd like to see us put a bit of faith in some of these young players as genuine backup to the first team players. Right, I'm going to be shooting in a minute. I'm just going to go through some of these comments. Holton says, O'Dowda, Colwell, Davis, Ashworth number 10, Siopis and Turnbull as the 2. So you'd have, all right, so Colwell as like a false 9, Isaac Davis, Ashford, and on the right, O'Dowda on the left. No, I don't like it. Or Davis on the right, sorry, Ashford, I keep saying Ashworth. Ashford as number 10, Colwell false 9. Yeah, I quite like that. Nice. Well, it has to be given a chance to bring in his own players, not ones recommended by the committee. I mean, technically, the way the committee is supposed to work, according to Mehmet Dalman, was that the managers can make, he can choose the players, but then they all vote on it. I'm not a fan of it, but I think I agree with you. The manager's got to be able to live and die on his decisions. If he brings in players, and if you look at the players he's brought in, they've all worked, really. Like, can you think of one who hasn't worked? Like, even Esprand was doing all right until the Swansea game and he went to pieces. Apart from that, I think they all worked to a degree. Bowler, maybe, you could argue. But some people would argue. Silvermex says, yeah, Ernie's, I spoke to Ernie on Wednesday. It's crazy, Never been on Cardiff's books. Ipswich. Yeah, it's a weird one, mate. It's typical, isn't it? Like, can you imagine, like, all the players who've lived in and around Cardiff who've never been in the Cardiff Academy? Crazy. Oh, Runnison would be the shout, wouldn't it? Of bullet signings, which didn't work. He was flipping awful. And I will never understand what he saw in him. I can't see it at all. I thought he was dreadful. And not just dreadful, but like, Alnwick was wicked. And he disrupted Alnwick. I will stand by that all day. Like, Runnison disrupted Alnwick, and he was never quite as assured after that. I do like Halworth. I know some people don't, but I do quite like him. Right, guys, as always, it has been a pleasure. If you're an Ace Podcast Nation member, we have a member show on tomorrow night. And we'll have all sorts of fun stuff. I think I might be bad. I might be back tomorrow night myself, actually, for a little show on Cardiff City World. But we've got some content coming. If you haven't got your tickets for City Legends events with Joe Ledley, 6th of July, tickets are just a tenner. Get in contact. The details are below. There's an email address and stuff to get it. Like very limited availability now, but it's going to be another cracking night. We've done Darren Pearce, we've done Andy Campbell, we've done Michael Chopra, and we did Willie Boland most recently. So we a range of eras and times. And Joe's going to be fantastic. Obviously, apart from his Cardiff career, had a phenomenal Welsh career, absolute Welsh legend. So I'm really, really looking forward to obviously hosting that. If you haven't got your tickets, please do get them. It'd be great to see you. Get your questions answered by the man. A few beers with the man. He's going to hang around and have a few beers and stuff, and you never know who else might turn up. And it's going to be a great night. It'd be nice to sell out the last couple of tickets now and announce it as a sellout. It's been a pleasure as always. Make sure you subscribe to Cardiff City World, like and share and all that thing. Spread the word to all your Cardiff City mates. We've got all sorts of content and shows 7 days a week by Cardiff City fans, for Cardiff City fans. No Nottingham Forest fans here, my friends. Take it easy. Be good.